welcome to another one of my highly unproduced YouTube videos. Today I'm going to show you a couple little tricks I learned that I thought were worth sharing. Here you can see I have an employees table. I'm a person who does a lot of enterprise UI. I have a little menu over here. I have a scrolling table. I have a filter to turn columns on and off. And I'm going to show you the most specific thing about this is how to have this selector here, this angular selector that can potentially pull back a lot of data. So what I want to show you are a couple things. I was running into this issue with my development team because they're like, yeah, we love searchable selectors, but our employee database is enormous. And if someone starts typing like just a C, it's going to pull back like 5,000 records, and this is going to really impact performance on the selector to fill up with all 5,000 records. So I was kind of playing with that idea, and I mocked this up, and I look forward to your comments to kind of get around or having a better user experience, both by allowing them to have a searchable selector on the page, and then to also give the user some clues that they need to type a little more data to get a viable list in the selector. So let me show you. I did a little research. My developers are using Angular, and I'm going to have links to all this in the extra information under the video. So in this Stackoverflow question answer, it was the same situation. 5,000 records, you know, what do you do? Oh, actually, this was the question. I'm using autocomplete Angular form component. You know, you're using autocomplete in the search, essentially. I'd like to filter on more than 5,000 values in the component, losing performance. You know, a couple ideas were wait until the user first types inside the place where the autocomplete is going to happen. In our case, it would be the search bar of the selector. You know, once a letter is typed, you know, the programmer, the developer can listen to when the user stops typing and then do an API call. In my instance, I made it very explicit with this arrow because I just wanted to simplify things. So instead of the developer listening, the user would explicitly hit the arrow and then the list would populate it. So I made it a little more duplex blocks as opposed to more elegant with the, because it'd be nice if the developer comes back and says, actually, I don't need this arrow. I can just listen, but whatever, whatever is going to work. So then I have another article I'm going to share with you from Medium that talks about this 3 different ways to render the dropdown faster, and this is pretty much the one I'm doing. I'm not using any I'm not mocking up any virtual scroll here. So let me show you, I'm going to show you how I do this. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pause this video and expand my screen. I've expanded the screen so you can see all the important things in the Figma program. So let's go into design. So over here I have a bunch of variants that I created, and I'm going to show you how I put that in the mock-up. So first things first, I'm going to start with this one. I held down the Option key, and where you can do Control-C, Control-V, and I just copied it over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to detach it now so I can show you how I built it, and this is the detached one. So I just wanted to show you how I did that. So if you're building the selector, what I do is I start with a frame, and you know, I made a frame, you know, this big, and pull it over. Whoop. This is my new frame. I'm going to pull it out here. See how it got stuck in there? You need to go back. Control X, stick you back in here. You were not supposed to come out. All right, anyway, so I have this frame here, and this is going to be a demo. And then I had, see, I call this search on the side. I had built this component Let me just show you. Put it in here. I control C and control V it here. This is just a rectangle with a rectangle within it. And I made a frame. You know, I put this icon in. I pulled this icon in from the material design icons. You know, I have a rectangle here. You don't really need the rectangle once you have the frame. And I have a label. So, you know, that's just something you can just build. Then I built this frame here. You can see on the side, first selection. I'll scroll it up. And, you know, I just built, I'll show you how I did that. First of all, so I can see better, I'm going to fill this with white. Oh, now I can see. And this, this first frame, this search frame, thank you Figma for allowing us to add strokes to not just the whole thing, but just to the bottom. And I'm going to make that my medium gray stroke. Very nice. All right, now this, this first selection, you know, you just make yourself a frame, stick it in here. What was the height on that? I had it at 48, yeah. So, and let's make this 48. I just did Control Z to go back and find it. And I'm going to fill it, and I'm going to make it my light gray. And Control X, select this frame, Control V. See, whenever something's not in the frame, I Control X it away and select the frame I want it to be in, and then Control V it in the frame. That way it is most definitely in the frame. And then I'm going to add that stroke on the bottom. Medium gray. Stop. And then I'm just going to copy this. You all know how to put text in things. And so now I have this frame as my first selection. The word none is in here. Now, why does it say fixed and scrolled? Because I copied this and I had set the scrolling to vertical scrolling. That's why that says fixed and scrolling. But what I'm going to do, because I don't need scrolling here because I only have one thing, is I'm just going to move that up there. And then that's done. It's like once you set a frame as scrolling, after you take it away, it still has these subsets here of fixed and scrolling. It's no big deal. You just pull out what you don't want to scroll in there. So I have my demo frame, my search bar at the top, and then the first word none. So this is going to be like my second part of my component. Important thing, these are my notes to remember to do later for this video. The important thing is for the first one, you want to Control Z, paste here. All you want to do for that is you want to take that none and make it invisible, and you want to take the demo frame and take out the fill. And this, we can actually make that have a fill of light gray. There we go. Because when we're making components, you want all your components to be the same size. Because when one switches to another or changes to another, they need to be the same size so that they actually lay on top of each other and change out. Because if this were just this size, this height, and then it switched to this one, it would jump on the screen and not line up perfectly. So that's why your first component looks like that. This is your second component. And then over here, when we have, you can see here, for this one, this is the example when the user starts typing. So the user starts typing their name, and then they press the enter icon, and then they get some results back. They don't get results that scroll because these results aren't larger than the select box selector set. But in this instance, they do. So this is the tricky one. This one's easy to do, so you can figure that out. This one, I'm just going to show you briefly how I made that. So let me detach it so I can show you. So up top here on the left, you see I have my search item at the top. I have the whole frame, which is employee search selector under prototype. It has no scrolling, but see how it still has the thing scrolling? I was messing about going back and forth, so it's no big deal, just leave it be. But then in here, I made a frame. This frame is called vertical scroll data. And within this frame, I have an auto layout frame called spacing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this apart and actually show you. So I just copied it. I held down the Option key and drug it, but you can do Control C, Control V. So first of all, I'm going to take, okay, that's no scrolling. Let me close that. So say where I'm at on the left. And just remember, you can always hit Option L to close all your frames that are open, and that really helps things. So I'm going to pull this up here, this vertical data. Let's leave these both fixed because it's the stuff inside the vertical scroll frame. So employee sector, this whole frame that holds both non-scrolling and this vertical scroll data frame, this doesn't need to scroll, this whole frame. The stuff in this vertical scroll data frame needs to scroll. That's the important thing. So when you have vertical scroll data frame selected, make sure under prototype, its overflow scrolling is vertical scrolling. The whole frame does not. Okay, so now here we are. What I'm going to do, you see on the side, I'm going to expand vertical data. I'm going to expand spacing. Now inside the spacing, I have all these frames that are the selections. You can't see some because I clipped it. But anyway, I'm going to grab these and pull them out like a crazy person after I got this to work. All right, so why did I do that? Let's go back to design. So, you know, you're making a whole bunch of these frames. I'm just going to delete some because I want to show you how this works. So I'm going to take the auto layout off, and thank you Figma for making auto layout. So now say I make another frame, Control D. I have to drag it down, and that's crazy. But I placed it, is it one? Yep, it's 1 pixel away. Now I'm just going to do, once I moved the once, I can do Control D, Control D, Control D, Control D, Control D, Control D, and Figma is smart enough to know to put all the new ones 1 pixel apart. So I'm going to hold down the command prompt. I'm on a Mac, so I'm holding down Command and I'm dragging that frame size. And that means it doesn't distort anything inside. Holding down Command and changing the borders of your frame took me a minute to learn. And once I learned it, I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so here we are, spacing. I'm going to put on auto layout. Auto layout automatically knows that my entities, my frames, are in the vertical direction, 1 pixel apart, and I have it in the top left alignment, which is fine. They're filling the frame anyway. So now, if say, I say, oh, I actually need another one, I just hit Control D, boom, it just pops right in. Or if I'm over here and I want to add, I'll just hit Control D and say actually, and then just change the data like Frank Jones, you know, whatever. So that makes it really easy. Now this doesn't need to be clipped, but see this vertical frame, vertical scroll data, I'm pulling it out, moving it all over the place. I drew this in here. So now this vertical scroll data lives inside employee search selector. Let's look down at what we're doing. Here's employee search collector. There's the search that doesn't move. Vertical scroll data with prototype scrolling, vertical scrolling. It's yelling at me because there's nothing in it that's larger than it is. Like, what do you mean it's going to scroll? There's nothing in here. That's cool because we are going to put spacing, this whole frame of spacings inside this smaller vertical frame. So I'm going to Control C because I don't want to lose anything. Click on my vertical scroll data and Control V it right in there. Oops, it's too high. I just hold down the down arrow and move that puppy until it lines up. Did you line up? I'm going to scroll in, make sure. Nope, now it did. Okay. So now this vertical scroll data, look on the left, has this spacing in it. We're going to move that down to scroll because that part's going to scroll, right? So vertical scroll data scrolls, and it's got this other frame in it that's way longer than it that should be scrolling within it. Better not make me a liar. So let's put a flow point on this. You see how I did that? I did that really quickly. I selected the frame, I went to prototype, I hit the plus for flow starting point, and it put one here. I'm going to run it. Can I scroll? Yes, I can scroll, and the search bar doesn't move. So that's first things first. That's the first thing we want to do. I'm going to remove that flow point so it doesn't confuse me. So then that's how I made all these. And I went through and I told the story. I said, well, first, the employee, they're going to see the search bar. Then they're going to click on it. It's going to open. None will show. Then they're going to start typing. Then they're going to hit this arrow for enter. Hopefully they won't have to, but if they do, there it is. It's going to make a call to the back end. It's going to pull back these results. Great, it didn't overload the selector. Now they're going to exit out. It's going to start over blankety blank. They're going to start typing in a C. Oh, that's only one letter. They're going to hit enter. Whoops, that's way too many letters. I'm going to turn back 5,000 results. The back end of developers do all their developer typing magic, and they get this. Now, how I put that in, that is just, I pulled this material alert, and let me just put a plugin for this UI kit. Where's the thumbnail? Angular material. Look, I'm going to have a link to this. Because my developers use Angular, this component library that's a UI kit in Figma is golden. So I just clicked on alerts and I grabbed one of these puppies. I think I grabbed this one. But I will say be careful, because if you click on the text and run your contrast plugin, you'll see that it fails for this size, normal text. So just, the components are great. The colors don't always pass for accessibility. So make sure you make adjustments in your actual file, which is what I did here. Say I made this purpley purple. And then when you go to the plugins and you hit the contrast, boom, we're passing. Excellent. So now look, so now the user gets a clue. They type a little more, they hit enter again. I know this is really old school. I'm hoping my developers can just listen in their magical developer way in the background, but just in case they can't, which is cool because development is hard. They hit enter here, and then, they get a list, but it's not overwhelming the selector, and it's up to the developers what they think is the right limit for this. Like, if it's going to return more than 250 results, have them type more letters. Is it 5,000? I think that's too many. Is it 100? Is it 50? That's the stuff that the back-end development folks know. So that when this would show up. But if it's too many results, they get this clue, they type some more, they hit enter, and then voila. And then they make a selection, Clara Smith. Then this would be your next component where they make the selection. And that, making the selection is just on this frame. Where am I? Right here is your fill. It's just, you just pick your fill as light gray, and I turned this fill for none to white. And then what happens here, the next thing that would happen is this. Once they selected this would pop up in the top to show it was selected. And then this part would disappear. But remember, all I did was make it invisible, and I set the fill to nothing because it needs to be the same size. Why did I go through all this? Because I'm trying to convince people that this is viable, so I need to show them all this stuff. So I'm running out of time. I know people don't like to listen so much. So what I'm doing with this is I'm just copying these out, I'm doing Control. You can do Control C and then right click paste here. Since I like this option button on the Mac, I'm pulling each one out using the option key. And one more thing I'm going to show you. I'm running out of room. Okay, so this is none, this was this. Option, I'm pulling it out. Option, I'm pulling it out. I'm pulling them all out separately. I wonder if I could select them all and pull them all out. Oh, isn't that smarter? Yeah, okay. Think work smarter, not harder. But the thing I wanted to tell you before I pulled them out that I did before I pulled them out is I created all these just doing this stuff up here with frames, right? And look on Figma's site for how you use this. For each one here that I made, I clicked this and I created a component. And then when I had all the components made, I selected them all. And then once you select all the components, like say I make this a component and this a component, and then I select the two of them, I combine them as variants, right? And Figma has a lot of really good YouTube videos on how to do that. And I'll put that in my search too. So let me make a note. Link to Figma variants. Okay, so then once I did that, once this was set up as variants, I prototyped within the variant set. And I said they're going to click, when they click in here, on top it's going to change to this one. And then the cool thing is, this interaction to get from here to here is after delay, leave it 800 milliseconds, it changes to this one. Then they hit enter, it changes to this one on tap. You know, on tap here, it changes to this one. Then they hit the X, it clears itself out. I didn't make it go back for a reason, you'll see why. They start tapping in here again. I didn't make it go back to the original one I copied. So when I made the status, this is default 2. Even though it's the same as default 1, you'll see why it's important to keep them in order. So prototype, so they start typing in here. Now they just typed a C, they try enter. On tap change to, they get their warning. Type some more, right? I hit enter. They get a viable list in the selector. They make a selection. Their selection turns gray. The none turns white. Everything stays the same up here. But then, whoops, you shouldn't be here. Then, let's jump back here. After delay, right, after delay, it comes over here. What's this? That's what it is. After delay, it goes over here, right, and pops. After delay, it goes over here, pops this in the top, and then after the delay, the bottom part disappears, they just need to see this. So these variants I've copied out and I put them right here. How does that look like a plus? I don't know. So that's interesting. It gave me a flow 2 here. Huh. I'm going to remove that. So now here's the trick. If you first, you have to, see, I want these variants showing up when they click on this kind of like button drop down, they're going to see this whole business. So when they click on this employee component, this overlay, on tap this overlay, and I set it to manual, it closes when it clicks in, when you click outside, and I set it to line right up here. They're going to see this, and then it's almost like watching a movie with a couple clicks. It's going to go through this procession, which I thought was worth sharing. Maybe you don't, but we'll see. So now I want to, actually, it's a little bit of redo. You have to, because now these are overlays in your file. So on tap, you want to swap overlay. Then, after delay, you want to swap overlay. Now let me show you something important that was screwing me up. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove this. And I'm going to keep going down the line, but first I'm going to show you. If you don't have this first overlay in the series connected, check out what happens. Now watch it not happen and make me a liar, but we'll see. On tap, swap overlay. And then I want to do an after delay. Oh, it's there. Okay. Well, if you're at my after delay wasn't showing up for some reason, unless I had first connected the overlay in the beginning. So if that happens to you, maybe it was just a fluke, just make sure you connect first and then start your progression. So let's go through. I know this sounds like redundant, like why do I have to do this? I already have it set up here. And I'll show you in a minute. So after delay, it goes here. And then, they hit enter. We're telling the story. We swap the overlay. Then they're going to change their mind and hit the X. We swap the overlay. Then they're gonna type in here, just like double clicking until I select it. We're gonna swap the overlay. They're gonna hit enter. They're gonna get the warning to type more letters. They're gonna click up here, swap the overlay. They're gonna type more letters. Now they're hitting enter. Swap the overlay. They get a reasonable data set. Now they're going to make a selection. And just select on the whole frame. That's the easiest thing to click when you're nervous and you're running prototypes. And they're, oops, don't forget. That's my biggest thing. I often forget to swap. I have navigate, and then I have to go back and fix it. Swap overlay. Because you're swapping overlays is awesome. And now after delay, it's going to reset the top part. And then after delay, boom, it's going to go here. And then after this last one, after delay, it's going to land you here, and this, I'm going to delete that. This employee thing is going to show that you made a selection. So let's change the fill to, no, not white. Let's change the fill to light blue. And these are just set up in my, and let's change the text to dark blue, and this color to like a darker blue. And that way they know. And now when they click on it, see, the user can always go back. They see, they get a visual cue that they made a selection. And I'm going to take this, I'm going to do Control C, just this vertical part. I'm going to paste it here. Do I want that? Actually, no. I'm going to Control C that. I actually want to take this whole thing. I'm going to Control C it. I want to paste it here. I want to detach it. And this guy, I don't want him connected to this whole beginning thing, because when they're here, I just want the user to be able to click on that, open the overlay manually down here where I want it, and them to remember who it is they actually picked, because it's not going to change up here. I thought that was a slick move. And then, of course, once they filtered on this person, you can change the table by just deleting out. I'm just selecting a cell, a group, or however you have it set up, and I'm just gonna remove these cells that aren't part of the filter. Delete. So that's one thing. Let's see how we did. So I'm gonna start this prototype. See what I screwed up here. So here we've got an employee table, but we want to look for a specific employee. So I click. See, I did the thing I said. La 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 la. On tap, open overlay. Swap overlay. Hey, what happened? Okay, so your open overlay, your swap overlay, your, oh, there's my navigate to. Swap overlay. I always do at least one. Swap overlay. Checking the rest. All right, good. Let's try it again. Let's restart. Here we go. So once I click, the overlay opens. Boom, there I go. I'm gonna click in here to start typing. I'm gonna hit enter. And now I'm gonna exit out. Now I'm gonna start typing again. I'm gonna hit enter. There's another one. Swap overlay. Try again. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to do that. Start typing. Okay, immediately goes to Joan. So boom, there's Joan. I'm going to exit out, change my mind. I'm going to click in here. It swaps to the one with the C. I'm going to hit enter. Whoops, there's my reminder. Okay, I'm going to click in here. It's going to type some more. Now I'm going to hit enter. And I have this nice scrollable list. And I selected one. And then it should jump. And then it should jump. And then it should jump. Why isn't it jumping? Okay, let's go figure it out. La 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 la. So it goes here. After delay, navigate here. Oh, could be this guy. That was like an extra stuff thing there. Let's try it one more time, see if I can figure it out. Restart. Boom. Typing. Typing. Yes. Xing out. Typing. Yes. Add more letters. Scrollable list. Select. Swap overlay. Swap. Honest to Pete, I'm telling you, I do it every time. Swap. Your navigate. Third time's the charm. All right, here we go. Exit out. Start typing. Enter. Too many. Type more. Enter. Good. Pick Clara Smith. There she is. Ha 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 ha. Yes, and so then it jumped here, and now you see. Now, but when you do this, when I click here, notice I detach it from the overlays that walk through themselves to just this one instance, so the user can still see without it going through like the whole little bit. Because the rows wouldn't switch, this is something else I want to show you. I just, for the sake of argument. Let's run this again. So in Angular Material Design, you can have a component outside the table. You can make it a nice, cute little setting thing where you can adjust the number of columns that the user sees. This is really important in enterprise design. Users think they want to see all the columns, but then they start working with them and they're like, I need to shut some of these columns off. Always give them an option to go back and show all the columns. Don't let them remove all the columns and then not be able to go back and show them. So I'm going to do a little selection here. Here's another cool thing from Angular Material Table. Let's look for, they don't have these organized alphabetically all the way. So let me see, is it under text boxes? No. I'm looking for the check boxes. Let me search on assets. Let's see. What am I looking for? Anyway, they have check boxes in here somewhere. Let me try and do a search. Check. Oh, that's not helping. Let's X out of there. Text boxes, timelines, tooltips. Oh, it is in here somewhere. Buttons, bottom navigation, alerts. Form inputs? Ah, yes. Under form inputs and control. You see this little guy? He's great. So you just Control C, copy him in, because when you double click all the way in, I believe you're allowed to turn him on and off. He's really cool. Instead of having to build your own. Can't get him to work right now though. Anyway, it's in here somewhere and you'll have it in my file too. So you just, yeah, that is a great little checkbox, because when I go here, I'll show you how it works over here. I double click all the way in and then I can turn that baby on or off. So what I did is I made, very similar to like I showed you, I made one scrolling selector, and then on this side I just turned on selections for 2 of them. So as soon as, so the way this works, let's turn on prototype, is the user hits the settings, then they open this scroller, then they are going to, on tap, swap overlay. It's going to show a couple things selected. Notice the apply button's lit up now. And when they hit apply, it's going to navigate here where the rows, only the rows they want to see are shown. And the settings icon shows that 4 columns have been selected. So let me just show you how that works real quick. So I'm going to click here, hit apply, and voila. And I thought that was really fun. That's all I have for you today. Like I said, these are totally unproduced and full of my own errors. I'm sorry, I don't have time to spend to like tidy them up. So I hope this is helpful. Run it on 1.5 speed if I'm talking too slow. And if you have any questions, please reach out in the comments. And like I said, I'm going to have links to all this stuff in the file. Happy designing!